everyone rested well and digested and refreshed, ready to lighten up and not be so serious about everything. But give me 15 minutes first. Just give me 15 more minutes. Love this little quote. Only when you resist what is here do you desire what is not. So many times so much of the, especially Eastern world, talks so much about the pain, and the pain that we have is desire. And I like this one because it comes from a little bit different angle. Instead of, no, I better not want that, I better not desire, it comes more from the, what would we say, more of the Zen aspect of loving what is, being with what is, not resisting what is here now. Only when you resist what is here do you desire what is not. So I like coming from it from that angle. It's less vicious, less violent, I guess is the word. And we're not trying to not do something, just try to not do something, that doesn't work, but if we turn it around, and that wonderful old saying of that which I resist persists, is so true. With everything that I have a perception about or a judgment about not being okay for you or not being okay for me. And it all starts with those two words, perfection and perception. Anytime I'm uncomfortable, I'm usually in some kind of perception of what perfection is, and then I get into trouble because I'm into judgment. Interestingly enough, this one of the little morning books I love, this was yesterday regarding perfection, and it's just real short. And it says, perfection is never found in the object, it is found in the attitude of the one who looks. When the lens through which you look is clear, all objects seen through that lens are beautiful. And, so anytime I get into that perfection or that seeing it different, thinking it should be different, I can, correct myself and go back to what is. In other words, then I've set up a desire for something to be other than it is here, this moment. It doesn't mean I can't make a change or make a correction if it's regarding myself or my attitude, but certainly not with someone else. Only when you resist what is here do you desire what is not. And along with that is the little saying, what at this moment is lacking? And I invite you all for the next 6 months or the rest of your life, no matter what is coming down the pike, just pausing in that, wait a minute, what in this moment is lacking? What is it that I'm seeing that I think should be different? I came across this in my files the other day. I got real energetic and decided I'm getting rid of all these papers. I did counseling, and I did years of workshops and panels and retreats, and I'd save things, and then I'd this, and so I'd start throwing out the old, but I came up with one of my favorites that I have not read in probably 12 years, 10, 12, maybe longer. And it came across the internet years ago, but it's just the most wonderful example for me to really look at the way I'm judging. And it's called Perception. You all might remember it, but, I kind of forget parts of it. But anyway, it's a little test on your perception. And some of you probably remember this. But number one, if you knew a woman who was pregnant, who had 8 kids already, 3 who were deaf, 2 who were blind, and 1 mentally retarded, and she had syphilis, would you recommend that she have an abortion? Does any of you remember this? You do. Number 2. It is time to elect the world leader, and your vote counts. Here are
Fantasy, huh?
your one vote is the one that's going to make the difference. Here are the facts about the 3 leaders. Candidates. Candidate 1 associates with crooked politicians and consults with astrologists. He's had 2 mistresses. He also chain smokes and drinks 8 to 10 martinis a day. Candidate B. He was kicked out of office twice, sleeps until noon, used opium in college, and drinks a quart of whiskey every morning. Candidate 3. He was a decorated war hero. He's a vegetarian. He doesn't smoke, drinks a very rare occasional beer, and hasn't ever had extramarital affairs. Who would your vote be? The answers. The first one was Franklin D. Roosevelt. The second one was Winston Churchill. And the third one was Adolf Hitler. And the reason he never had extramarital affairs is I don't think he ever got married. So you see how, no matter, you can really test yourself. And by the way, regarding the abortion question of the woman at the top, if you said yes, you would recommend an abortion, you just killed Beethoven.
Oh, really?
That was his mother.
Wow.
Yeah. Woo. Anyway, I love that one. I don't think I'll ever throw that one away. I like to go back to that one because it tells me so much from my perception and my judgment. Anyway, Joel has packed us full of a lot of good stuff, and if that thing tells me anything, brings me back to I don't know. You know, who am I to judge? Who am I to know what you should be doing or how the world should be run? And I'm going to play half of a Joel tape. I think it's about 20 minutes. But we're going to close with it. I discovered it in the middle of the night, and I had not heard this tape before. And it is one of the best explanations that I've heard Joel give on mind and how the mind operates. And the only other explanation I've ever heard that I liked was from Margaret could hear, was Margaret Johnson's on her the mind tape. What's the name of that tape? Mind and the Intellect. Thank you, Roland. Margaret Johnson's one of the teachers out of Atlanta. In fact, she's probably passing, like maybe this weekend. We had heard word that her soul is leaving her body, but Lee has a couple of those copies of Mind and the Intellect, and she really explains how I am the projector, projecting out on every one of you my scene, and then I'm going to see it the way I see it. And obviously I would have been one of the ones that killed, Beethoven. So, because of my perception of everything. And I would have voted for Hitler. He's a vegetarian. He doesn't screw around, sounds good to me, But this was amazing when I ran into this last night, and I kept playing with it till I backed it up to the part, and it will go to the end of the tape. It's part of the New York Fisher Hall tapes, which I had never really had anybody tell me about them particularly or play them at a class to where they caught my attention. I think it's 57. But when I ran into this part of it last night, I thought, yeah, we're going to go home on that. this will send us off good, as he explains, that mind part. So, just to reiterate from our class from the beginning, we started with getting rid of some of, throwing out old belief systems and basically just overhauling everything we've come through the last years, many of us from different, channels and journeys, and many of us have done script and kid work with Barbara, many of us have, been Virginia students from day one, many of us, we've all come from, and along with all of that, we've also gone out to all the other Byron Katie's and, Alan White's and, on and on, Gangaji, I don't know who you've gone to, and Avansante and all the different wonderful ones. There's just, we're just gifted, with being able to find, and from every one there's little tools and little things that I wouldn't trade anything for, and it all goes together to put together that toolkit. And why would I need a toolkit? Because I'm in human form. For whatever reason, I signed some contract that said, yes, I will come to the planet Earth and walk through this illusion. And perhaps not kill myself, or one of you. And so far I've made it. But anyway, I had some call the other day. I was smarting off and I came out of the room. I looked at Leah. Why haven't I killed somebody by now? But I was very patient and loving on the phone, if that counts for anything. Because my perception was she should have had that abortion. How dare you bring another. Anyway, it wasn't that. But the whole thing is, how can I make my path as gentle and loving for myself and those around me as possible? I need tools. And Joel did such an amazing job of giving us the what all of this about. And yesterday on that tape, talking about who told you, where do we find that line of that illusionary moving from when we're sitting in that lovely meditation and we're high and we're lifted, and where suddenly we move from that line and we're out of the garden and we're down there in the trenches with the rest of the nutcases, just like myself. And where do we move from that line? And Joel said it's in the judgment. It's the good or the evil. It's believing in two powers. Separation, separation, separation. I don't care what it is, if it's physical, emotional, medical, relationship. I have separated from you. I have separated from God. And I have separated from myself. And I have judged me as being wrong or bad. If only I had done it different, if only I hadn't said that, if only I had, or if only they hadn't. Why did they say that? Why did they do that? How could they? And why is God letting all this go on? As I'm watching this illusionary nature of the third dimensional world, and Joel laid it out so beautifully, how to move back into the garden. Wait just a minute. I bit of the fruit again. I'm judging good or evil. Who told me? And then I come home and I'm back and I rejoin with self and say, oh yes, I forgot who you were. I forgot God identity. I forgot God constitutes individual being, mine, yours, theirs. I forgot. Home. Home to the garden. Home to the peace. Home to the acceptance and the allowing. And then I can lift and be still and let all the judgments go. And then I'm back in that little quote. Where'd it go? I love it. I'm going to say it again. There it is. Only when you resist what is here do you desire what is not. And I can stop wanting me different, you different, it different. And I rest. And as I rest and I accept you, I come into this, what we call love, what we call grace, what we call presence. Barbara Muhl gave the how-to to the what of Joel. She's not the only one. She's just one that I happen to have been able to be blessed to spend time in her studies. She gave me the how-to. Joel says, resist not evil. Well, how? Joel says, who told you? Well, how am I going to recognize who told me and that I'm in that space? She gave us she told that we were given as students 3 assignments, kind of like lifetime assignments. The first one was to destroy all your belief systems, all your old ideas. It's also one of the suggestions in Alcoholics Anonymous. Just get rid of all your old ideas. When you want to lay down an addiction, you've got to get rid of all your old ideas. Of what? Of what's good and what's evil. You got to get rid of all your old ideas. And Barbara Muhl says, get rid of your old belief systems. Destroy them. Well, how do I destroy them if I don't know what they are? And if I didn't have an emotional body and a reactor, how would I know that I had old belief systems that I had outgrown without a notice? Thank you, God, I have a mechanism that tells me that I'm uncomfortable, that something went or something got here. But do I come out here and let you have it? Or sometimes when I'm not awake enough, or I can come back in the quietness of my own being, in the quietness of my room, and investigate, why is this upsetting you? What is it about you that you have made a decision about that it's good or evil, and that you have separated? Where have you separated? And then I can come home and do the investigation. Mostly I have to call other people and talk about it. Someone who can be outside the woods that I have crawled into, that can break the illusion or the hypnotism, that will laugh and make light of it and say, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. What a lie you're living by. That's how I do it. So she told us 3 things. Destroy your belief systems, your old belief systems, whether they're religious, political, whatever they are. Destroy the ones, what? The ones that create judgment within me. I'm not talking about discernment. There is righteous discernment. I'm not talking about righteous discernment. Righteous meaning that will bring me to right action, which will bring me to right behavior. Right only meaning loving, compassionate, considerate. Sometimes the best thing I can give somebody that I'm not, particularly fond of being near is just be considerate. Just polite. Just be polite. Just be polite. Go back within and say, God, if you want me to see this person as your son, you're going to have to do the job because I got other ideas here. So I come back. I stop the separation. I ask for help to stop the separation. Then I've destroyed some of those belief systems. The next one she said to be is learn to be real. Try not to be and see how far you get. How often, get that mask up there, put on that personality, go out there with your, quote, fantasy script, start projecting it all over and see how close to getting what it is you want you do. I must understand that God can only meet me where I am. And where I am could be in turmoil, could be asleep, could be buying the human illusion when the TV comes on and says, none of us are going to have any money anymore. None of us are going to have any houses. You know, when that stuff starts, the swine flu, the chicken flu, the mad dog, the mad cow, the mad everything, you know. Wait a minute. What about cows could be mad? You know? So wait a minute. Who told me cows were mad? You know? And we stop and we go in and we say, wait a minute. But then we do the practical thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm also a very practical, responsible, accountable person to the things in the third dimension. But I separate from that which does not bring me closer to God. That's where I stand at the door. That's where I stand at the door of mind, as Mary Baker says, stand porter at the door. And when those temptations to believe in a power other than God come through, no, sorry. I've been out of the garden enough. I'm not going out this moment. I'm going to stay in here without judgment for good or evil, and know that there is only one power. That was Joel's most important message. And I say that about a few of the things he says. I say that about impersonalization, and I say that about nothingization. But one power. That was the one. One power. There is no power in this third dimensional illusion movie. Step out of the theater. Get back into the garden. That presence, that lifting, that heaven on earth. That's why we say that Lord's Prayer all the time. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. It will be done on earth as it is in heaven. How does that mean? That means that right here, while I'm in the third dimensional world, I can enter the fourth dimensional world and live in my Father's house. And be still, right standing there in the workplace in front of everything and everybody that's coming down wanting to tell me everything other than that. So I get to learn to be real. Oh yeah, I fell again. Oh yeah, I came again. Oh yeah, I forgot. In fact, this last year I had two broken bone incidences where I first broke the shoulder, and then 10 months later I just finished all the great rehab for that, and I turn around and I fall down and I break my hip. Both times, the first thing I did was call Lee. I'm laying on the cement, and they said, you want me to call? I said, no, let's call Lee. And we call Lee. And I say, Lee, I'm laying here, and I can't move. There was no story around it. And then I backed up. Well, were you running too fast? Were you and I backed up, and I thought, that's interesting. I was walking across the dirt, praying and thinking, I was in full gratitude. Like, God, it's the most beautiful day, and this is awesome, and I'm walking along. Well, I think I'll go make my lunch before I do my little chores I had lined up. I did have a little list, always have a list. And I tripped, and down I went on the pavement, and I thought, my God, I can't move. Next thing I know, the handyman happened to be there, and I call Lee. He says, well, can you move? I says, no. He says, both times, well, can you move? Sure, I'm going to move because I'm God. God is me, and God are these bones, and bones can't, the whole spiritual routine. And then I called 911. God says, why do you think I made ambulances? And I just, and I thought, why in 2 years? What's God trying to tell me? Am I getting the whole thing, but not big. It was just like questioning, interesting, but no story about it. People would try to, oh, my God, again. No. It just is what it is. Girl laying in hospital. I want to tell you the truth. It was a wonderful retreat in that rehab. Everything I needed was taken care of. we're not going to do it again, but but it wasn't horrid. And I will preface that whole experience with the fact that I have been very, very resistant to hospitals and doctors and all of that stuff. And I got to see the miracles and the beautiful people and the love and the caring. And I went, oh, okay. Oh, all right. No more judgment. No more, misperceptions. Anyway, those were the learning to be real. I couldn't not lay there and get up. It was like I had to be met where I was. I couldn't be met in my spiritual fantasy world of where I was. I had to be met where I was, laying on pavement. Girl laying on pavement, needing outside help to pick girl up, and put her back, Humpty Dumpty, back together again. And I guess God figured I needed to have two of those experiences, so I did, But here I am, and it was a very fast healing, and healing. But that's how we're made. We're always surprised when we heal. Why? We're made to heal. We should be more surprised when we don't, because we're made to heal. That's how we are. We're God appearing as constituting individual being. And if it's in part of that unfoldment that I'm to heal and walk, fine, The third one was learn to love. Barbara's admonition for all of those serious students that were coming from in the Joel, in the infinite way, in the wanting to experience that union, that God consciousness. He can only meet me where I am, and I can only meet God when I recognize that the presence of God is right here. Not off when I get over to the church, or not off when I go to the retreat or in the class, but here, now. That's it. Learn to love. Well, what is love? Is love an emotion and a feeling, or is love action? Is when my kid never started believing that I loved her until I started taking actions of taking care of her and give her what she needed. And when I say that, for people unfamiliar with kid work, we're simply talking about the little ignorant, innocent human part of us that grew up with all this conditioning and brought it in lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and here we come projecting it out there again, all that old perception, and little by little we get to see it, name it, claim it, and dissolve it and give it to God. And Doris always said, whenever you called her, forgive it, forgive it, forgive it. Give it to God. Give it to God. Never happened. Give it to Barbara always, never happened. Give it to God. It's all in the movie. Never happened. Give it to God. And in that is the healing. But on this subject of love, we get pretty off base in our universe, just like we do with everything else. Love being romance, love being laying down and dying and for someone, and love being all of these heroic aspects, or love being picking you up and doing things for you when you need to be doing them for yourself, and I'm then doing you an injustice. But finding that line and all that can, drive a person crazy. What's the loving thing to do here? The loving thing to do always is non-attachment, moving back, non-judgment, allowing everyone out there, and allowing myself to have the contract that is invisible, that I'm here to walk through, grow through, if there, that contract with God of why I entered this whole, why I was out of the garden, wherever I bit that belief in two powers, why I'm here, The only thing there is for me to do here is to understand and see God appearing as, not the story. It's not God in the drama and God in the story and God in the script. It's God appearing as me in this moment, woman sitting in chair. No story. Woman sitting in chair. the peace, and the love that it is poured. And you hear that voice that said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased." And Barbara's favorite word, she used to say, approved, 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 right where you are, right here, right now, approved. And I have this little mark here. I ran across it again this morning on love. You keep looking for love from other people, not realizing that love comes only from your own consciousness. It has nothing to do with anyone else. Love comes from your willingness to think loving thoughts, experience loving feelings, and act in trusting, love-inspired ways. The source of love is within your own heart. Don't look to others to provide the love you need. Don't blame others for withholding their love from you. You don't need their love. You need your love. You need your love, your recognition. Let's just sit back a minute and see if there's more. Okay, I think we're going to take a little break, meaning if you need water, bathroom, stand up, sit down, just, take just like 4 or 5 minutes. No conversation. And then come back, we'll go into the silence, and then I'll play Joel's words. Thanks.